Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to The Treaded Path, the podcast from Kufi Productions, where we explore the inspiring journeys of Muslim professionals across diverse industries. I'm your host, Salman Hassan, and each week we sit down with remarkable individuals who are making their mark in their chosen fields to highlight their successes and challenges in their journey and examining corporate accountability within their profession and providing practical resources for aspiring professionals. They also offer actionable advice on career advancement and ethical navigation to those who want to tread their path. So today, I'm honored to be joined by Umair Khan, founder of Techamana, helping top talent around the world with clients with specific needs. Umair started his career with software development and then moved to leading engineering teams and building scalable applications. As a reminder to our listeners, you can view the show notes, resources, and ways to connect with our guests in the Tread Path archive in kufiproductions.com. So with that, Umair, assalamu alaikum, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, walaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Before we dive into your story, can you please give our listeners a brief overview of what you do in your current role today?
Yeah, so for Techamana, I'm the founder and CEO. So I look at day-to-day operations for all of the different features and like business engagements that we are going to be having. So we have a team also who are working on different areas from marketing to outreach, client outreach, and search engine optimization, business development, and software development. But my role primarily revolves around bringing new business, like how we are going to be reaching out to the companies who are looking for hiring top talent from around the world, and also like managing day-to-day operations in terms of managing the teams and getting updates from the different departments.
Nice. And so, what drew you initially to Techamana and helping talent be recruited to different clients? What was so interesting about that made you want to start Techamana in the first place?
Yeah. So I also should mention that, like you mentioned, my experience in software industry. I'm also currently working as the director of IT at a leading technology company in the automotive space. It's
Oh,
called
nice.
Simple Tire, and that company it's Simple Tire, and it's called like there. I have been working for many years, hiring talent from all over the world. Like we have an offshore team and on-site. Like we have on-site people as well in offshore, and I have been using similar platforms for last like very similar platforms for last 5 6 years. So I know a lot of people, like how they are from different continents and different time zones. So that
Right.
experience, like working as a client for these companies, like hiring from them. And also the second thing is I came to United States back in 2017. But before that, I used to all of my studies and my early career also was in Pakistan. So in Pakistan,
Nice.
I got an opportunity to work for a similar company, which was providing the same service to other clients. Like they were hiring the top talent from all over the world. And the differentiation between these platforms versus doing a job at a like I was also working at a different company at that time locally, was that these platforms were actually paying you much more than what you would be earning in Pakistan living at that time. So that like the opportunity to be able to earn similar to what someone else would be earning in US. It's not exactly the same, but it's very close to what you can actually earn in a different country. That actually was the like biggest factor, I would say, for me to also think about creating the same opportunity for other people. So I
That's
mentioned I
nice.
used to work in Pakistan, so I've worked with many like very good people, like who have the expertise similar to anyone else in the world. Like I have now worked with people from all over the world.
Yeah.
They did not have that opportunity, or they were not earning as much as what a person in a different country would be earning. So when I got that opportunity back in, this was late 2016, and it was almost time for me to come to US at that time. I already had my visa as well. But It was a position for $30 an hour. At that time, it was a huge deal for someone living in Pakistan at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually was my motivation. Like, because I worked for these platforms as a talent, as a freelancer also, and then coming to US and working for Simple Tire, I've had the opportunity to hire from these platforms as well. So that actually is the main motivation.
Nice. And so when you started software development, right? Like, start when we're talking about from the beginning, what were your early influences that kind of shaped to who you are now? Like, is there any particular person in mind or any mentor that you had that kind of helped you guide you towards where you are now at Techamana?
Yeah, for my motivation or someone who could guide me, I think for my family, I was actually the first person who got into computer science. So there were no mentors or
Really?
people I could actually talk to. Now, a lot of people are actually like my cousins or other people in the family are doing this. But the biggest help that I got was from internet. So this was a time when internet was becoming increasingly accessible, and the knowledge was actually like you could actually get the same knowledge wherever you are.
Right.
Like I was in Karachi, Pakistan at that time, but I had the same information that anyone in the world could be getting. So we had access to, like, I remember Apple, like, I used to be very fond of technology and used to read a lot about technology news. But
Right.
I also had this, like, like this passion for doing software development. Like I just knew that this is something that I want to do. So Apple launched their iOS platform, like with the new iPhone. I think with the second or third iPhone, they also launched the App Store. So App Store was a new thing. So where third party developers can come in and build applications for like the App Store. So, and not just that, they also said that if you go to iTunes, you like they had a section in iTunes for iTunes University. You can actually see how to write software applications for the App Store being taught by Stanford University professors. So they used to record live lectures from Stanford University and upload it to
Nice.
university. So I had access to like information like to someone studying at Stanford or like other universities also, like MIT also used to have their own thing. So I think that was the biggest help, like the invent of internet or internet being accessible. That actually changed my career, I would say, or my like whole life. I would now say, like I was able to get
Yeah.
it and do things.
So that's nice that you had the help of the internet to kind of guide you through what you wanted to do professionally. I'm sure it came with challenges, right? Trying to learn different things about
Yeah.
software development or engineering in general or computer science in general. Were there other challenges that you faced while in college or after college?
Yeah. So there's always the passion. Like I wanted to develop software. I also went to college for computer science, but the education that you get in colleges is good, but it's more on the like not very practical. Like it's all in
Theory, like theoretics and
yeah.
things like that.
So
Okay.
the challenges are like once you actually get into the field, how you would be able to apply those learnings to actual
Yeah.
implementation. And the biggest, like I think someone doing computer science or software development, I would say the biggest hurdle that you have to cross is to have the confidence in yourself that whatever the challenge be or situation be, because you have to solve problems through software or writing software.
Right.
Once you have the confidence that you will be able to find a solution to that, that is where you will become successful or you'll be able to then build anything. So I think just to have that confidence, it takes time. Like then it requires a lot of application and hard work and making sure that you are not giving up, because it could also be challenging like sometimes. And I think nowadays it's also easier to understand concepts or things. Back then, there were not a lot of resources. Now the AI can actually write code for you, and
Yeah.
it's like also scary, like to think about the things that we used to provide as a service or the value that we used to provide can now actually be done through AI as well. But there are other things that you can do now, like obviously with the invent of AI. But
No, for sure. Yeah, with the advent of AI, um, and everything along with that, they've made doing a lot of things so much easier, right? Like you said, writing code or doing any creative project, or doing your homework,
yeah, many different use cases.
right? No, that's great. So I wanted to kind of pivot over to one of the things that we loved exploring in this podcast is the intersection of Islam and our faith with our professional life, right? So in the past guest speakers that we talked to, they've talked about implementing their daily practices at their workplace, or while studying in universities and college. So I wanted to ask you, how have you gone about doing that, right? Or how has that intersection of Islam and your professional life influence like your career choices and your approach to professionalism?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So I was actually, you can say that I was actually, or I became more practicing through my workplace also. So as I mentioned, I used to
Very
work
nice.
in Pakistan, so two different companies that I worked over there. But like living in Pakistan, I think now living here in like US or the Western countries, because you are like you have a smaller community of Muslims, so you are actually
Yeah,
more close together and more practicing. I would say I've noticed that after coming here and living here for the last few years. But in Pakistan, I think the younger generation are like they are like obviously I cannot define a percentage, but they are not as practicing as I would say people here. So I was also like I was obviously not really not following the teachings of Islam, but I'm talking about praying salah, like praying five times a day. That was not the practice that I had. But in my workplace, not right away, but we hired a person. He was in quality assurance, and he had a very strong personality also. So he used to like whenever there was time for it was usually Zohar and Asr during the working
yeah,
hours. So he would actually said that we can set up a musalla on top of the rooftop of our office.
nice.
Whenever there was time for prayer, he would actually ask people to come and like let's go and pray. So I think that was really helpful for me to start developing that habit of at least starting to pray a few times a day. And then, Alhamdulillah, I was able to then convert it into 5 daily prayers, and then like practicing in a sense. Like I think praying Salah 5 times was the most difficult part for someone who's not fully practicing. Otherwise,
Yeah,
we obviously not doing anything haram or anything.
of
But
course,
the
of course.
5 daily prayers, I think that got me into the habit of praying 5 times a day. And then I think one Ramadan, I tried to do all Taraweehs, like 30 nights. And I think that actually after that Ramadan, it became easier because once you are able to do like 20 rakas every night, then just doing 5 daily prayers, it's not as difficult. So, but yeah, that actually was one of the things that I found like during my work, which actually got me becoming more practicing.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I was actually but that was going to be my next question about, have you found ways that, the teaching of Islam, or if Islam in general has enhanced how your professional effectiveness, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think you answered that question, but were there, like, so for example, like the Ramadan, practicing, fasting and going to the Taraweeh, on the Ramadan nights, you found that it was easier to do that here in the US than versus Pakistan. Is that right?
Yeah, no, I was talking about Pakistan also. Like when I did one
Oh,
run
okay.
in Pakistan, after that it was easier for me. But yeah, I think what you were talking about earlier also, like how did I get inspiration from the Islamic teachings,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
also apply those in my professional career. those are also like after coming to US, I think there are a lot of like decisions that you have to make. So when I came to United States, I also got to see the different opportunities that I can get and apply for. It was a good time, 2017. It was not as bad as right now. Like there are not a lot of jobs or
You're
as
right.
many jobs as it used to be. So I had the opportunity to be able to pick and choose and apply to certain companies who are aligning with the Islamic values or not against Islam, like not
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
investing in any industry which is like dealing with haram or like anything that's forbidden.
yeah.
So those are always part of my decision making also, like making sure that we are not going to
Of
be very
course.
dependent on anything that is going to be like not good for our akhirah basically.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And so you were mentioning about applying to different companies after coming from Pakistan and being in the U.S. Were there any misconceptions that you had to address yourself about being Muslim or being a Muslim in the workplace? Were there any examples in your career that you felt that like no, this is not what Muslims are, or was it is there a particular time that you had to do that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like when I actually started, it was Ramadan also, coincidentally. So we had to go out for work, and I was fasting that day. So I actually had to explain the concept, like how Muslims fast, and why we are fasting, like what's the reason behind it, and it's like a lot of discipline and everything. But I think that is one thing that I understood after coming here, that we also have a responsibility towards others to be able to clear any misconceptions. There are a lot of good conversations that I've had, like where people have been very surprised to know a lot of similarities between religions like Islam and like Christianity or Judaism, also like same prophets, or mainly with the Christians living here in United States. And then people are actually able to relate to the same things, like when we celebrate Eid al-Adha, like how I tell them about the prophet Abraham and like why we are doing it, so they can also relate back to the same teachings that they have also learned, which are also similar in their religion,
Yeah.
that I have seen. But misconceptions, I think, yeah, they were like those things. People were not aware of certain things, and after getting more information, as I said, they were surprised to learn like there are a lot of similarities. So I would say that is how I have usually seen it.
Nice, nice. Was there any particular moment in your career that you would say like that really shaped or took hold of who you are right now? Like, was there one particular moment that you could say, this is kind of what defined me or brought me to Tekamana? Was there any one example that kind of shaped the, you know, the profession that you are right now?
Yeah, I think for Tech Amana specifically, as I mentioned earlier, the motivation was to be able to provide the platform or opportunity to people who would not be able to earn as much as like they are earning in the different countries, or even being in US. Like some of the people who are a part of our platform are from US itself. So that is one thing. But coming generally to technology, as I mentioned, like getting into this field, software development, and all of that. That I remember, I actually did I was in my high school, I was doing ONA levels. That's a different like examination system where you actually get your exams from, like it's managed by University of Cambridge in England. So in my O levels, like you can say high school, I actually got computer science as a subject. And that is where I realized that this is something that is very easy for me. Like I was naturally inclined towards like curious
Yeah,
about learning more about
yeah.
concepts. And I actually, that was the only course or subject where I didn't have to study much, and I still got the highest. Like at that time, it was 90 above was A grade, so I got an A very easily. So that's how I realized that this is something that is like I'm naturally inclined towards, and this is something that I should pursue. So that's how I got into the field itself. But
Nice,
yeah, that's one particular moment I would say. Yeah.
nice, nice. Awesome. So let's talk about Tecumana and what you do right now over there. Can you walk us through like a typical day or your typical week as a founder of Tecumana? What are, I guess, some of the things that you do day to day?
Yeah. So day to day, looking at the different metrics, like when we have the teams assigning or assigned to work on different tasks. So we have different KPIs defined for like SEO person, like they would be working on specific tasks. So checking to see how many like different posts that they were required to create they are doing, or for the business development team looking at how many like outbound outreach like to the clients they have performed, or number of calls, or messages or things like that. But not just that, my main focus is also to look at what features we can build in the platform which would actually help facilitate the process of hiring, or for people who are looking to get jobs, how to better improve on that.
Yeah,
So that is where most of my time is actually spent, like also doing some of the feature development also, like I build some of the features for the application. The whole platform originally I built, but now I have team members who are building certain features, but I still continuously or continue to develop features myself as well.
nice. So you're into the development aspect of the work as well, right? And not only admin work, but you're actually doing the
Yeah,
technology, the technical work as well.
yeah.
What do you which do you enjoy most? Like what aspect of your work is most rewarding to you? Like at the end of the day, you appreciate, the fact that you were able to, connect with people. Like, is there one aspect or a couple of aspects of your work that you feel like this was worth it?
Yeah, I would say recently or lately I've been enjoying a lot, like learning more about how you implement different sales strategies, because building or writing software, I actually like have been doing that for many years. So I understand like it's not something new.
Right.
Working with the different people on the business development team or sales development, like SDRs, and seeing how they are using different tools, or now there are many different tools you can use to like enrich the client data or generate leads, and then how they have different strategies for outbound, and like learning a lot about the sales cycle. I think that is very like I found it very interesting, and that is something that I really enjoy because it's
Nice.
something new, like I was not like familiar with it before.
Got it. Got it. And as you're learning different things about, different parts of the company and what you're doing there, have you learned anything about the industry as a whole, as far as like how it's improved or how it's involved? Is there any particular part of like Tech Amana or like the industry that you're part of that's changed drastically over the past 2 to 3 or 5 years?
Yeah, in the last 5 years, definitely. And this is also one of the reasons why I thought of starting the business. Like since COVID 19, like a lot of companies are now more willing to be able to invest in offshore resource or a remote resource. Previously, people were against the idea of working remotely. A lot of
Yeah.
companies, and they were forced to do that. They realized that there are benefits to it as well. So that has been a major shift in the perception, and also like the decision making on the like in the organizations.
And COVID has had a lot to do with that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So since COVID, like that is what I was saying. So since COVID, like companies have now been more acceptable to the idea of hiring remotely. So that has actually helped. I think another thing that has happened last couple of years in United States, especially, this is also due to COVID. Like there was plenty of hiring during the early years of COVID. Like the first year or so, people were unsure, but then there were like lower interest rates. People were borrowing money from the banks and
Right.
lot of investment. So people were actually hiring a lot of people at that time, like up until 2023 or so. The, there were excessive hiring, and the companies have later realized, like 2023, 2024, there were mass layoffs also. Like bigger tech companies have also laid off a lot of people. So the recent past have not been as good, although COVID actually increased the idea of, or people were comfortable with the idea of hiring remotely. But post COVID, like there were a lot of layoffs also. So it's kind of like a mixed industry right now. But we are looking forward to next year, like early next year, we are expecting to see people having more stabilization in their organizations and then having the budget to hire and expand on that. Because this year I've noticed a lot of companies are in a phase where they have kind of frozen their hiring. If they are not laying off people, they are not even also expanding their teams.
So while that's happening, what have you noticed people do, as like strategy or like next step, like if people aren't hiring, what are people doing to be hired essentially?
Yeah, it is actually difficult. Like a lot of people who are getting laid off from bigger tech companies, they are spending on average, like this industry trends, like some of the information that I've been reading online, like 3 to 6 months to get rehired. So it's not easy to get a job. Like if you are laid off or if you just want to switch your job, people are also not switching their job right now because they are unsure about the market, like if they would be able to get another,
Yeah.
or only if they have an offer, then obviously they can resign and join another company. But like people who are looking to get hired now, I think people have realized that the social media or marketing yourself is another tool that they could utilize. So I've seen on LinkedIn people being very active, like they are posting about like technology or
Yeah.
specific to their area, whatever their job function used to be, and just to stay relevant and have their presence felt on the platforms so that people can notice them and then they can get another opportunity, or if they're just looking for a new opportunity, they get an
Right.
opportunity like that.
Yeah, I've seen, in fact, the last guest speaker that I interviewed, she was saying that she's very active on LinkedIn because that's how you get a lot more opportunities, whether it's interviews or just coffee chats or, you know, um, an investor who's, wanting to invest in your pitch or your business. LinkedIn is the platform where all of that is
Yeah,
happening.
I was also referring to LinkedIn when I mentioned social media, because LinkedIn is actually like the platform for the like professionals, and
Yeah,
very good platform. Like we were also able to find a lot of, or like get approached by or find professionals in the like interest in like whatever interest we have, we
yeah.
can.
And then in LinkedIn, as you know, there's so many different features, right? And one of them is like, I think it's like LinkedIn Learning, for example, right? Which is one of the professional development resources, I will, if you will. But to you, what professional development opportunities have been valuable to you, right? Grow or go in the career path that you're in right now. What professional development or just opportunities in general has been valuable to you in the past?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, some of the things that were being available or accessible through internet, like you were able to the courses from like the top universities in the world. Like we used to be able to see Harvard and like computer science courses, and Stanford University also had their own
Yeah,
IT university. But beyond that, I found it was a newer platform at that time, Coursera. So Coursera is also
Coursera. Yeah,
so I also was in like I was working at that time, but they also had an option where you can actually apply for financial aid, and I was working but not earning as much as I would be earning in
Sure.
US.
Yeah.
So I was able to apply and get approved for a lot of courses that I did at that time for machine learning and data science. This is 2015, 16. And I was also able to complete those courses and then get certificates and like that actually, not just for the sake of showing it on the resume, or I think the learning from those courses was very beneficial for my understanding of this different field, which was different to software development like machine learning and data science. But that has actually helped me when I came to US, and I was able to apply those learnings in my day to day the tasks that I perform, and that actually was very beneficial. LinkedIn Learning, you mentioned LinkedIn Learning has also been very good. I have not used it as much as I should have, but they have a lot of courses that you can do on different things. And there's also another opportunity, or people are using that to showcase their skills or the recent upgrades in their skill set that they have been able to achieve through learning, and then share that certification or credential with other people on their LinkedIn profiles as well.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, and there's so many resources and opportunities out there, right? It's just you have to kind of do your research and
Yeah,
figure out what's best for you, right? But it definitely helps to talk to people as well to help you figure out what you want to do, right? And what skills you want to, be better at, and etc. No, that's great. So let's dive into some of the controversial stuff, right? That maybe you've seen yourself personally or just in general within the industry you're in. What are some like ethical issues that you've seen or ethical dilemmas that you've seen happen either the companies you worked with or the clients you worked with? What are some common ethical issues that you've seen in your industry?
yeah. I think ethically, from what I've been able to see, in a couple of cases, when you're working for an organization, it's actually there's a sense of loyalty. I think loyalty in terms of not using their private information for your own benefit. I think that is one of the things that you should be very careful of.
Of course, yeah.
And in couple of cases we have noticed in the companies or organizations that we have worked with, that people have used the information or some of the client information or contacts, and then reached out to them privately or engaged with them separately for their own benefit.
Uh, like solicitation and things like that.
So that is one thing that I have noticed. So, and similar cases of using private information about an organization and then sharing it with someone else who would be benefiting from knowing that information. So I think that is one thing people should be very careful of. The organizations that I have worked in, or still am working for, I think now there are very strict rules and guidelines for that, because a couple of incidents that have happened. Yeah, that is one thing I think people should be very careful of. And it's also not something people are doing intentionally. Sometimes people, without knowing, can do certain things also, which is kind of not going to be if we look at it in terms of ethical responsibility, fall under the same thing. But now, there are so many these cyber threats and phishing attempts and things like that, where you can actually easily fall into the trap of that. So in the bigger organizations that I have had experience of working in, they actually have these trainings that you have to do every few months in order to make sure that you are aware of these threats and not falling or falling in the trap of leaking some sensitive information without
Yeah.
having the intention to do so.
Yeah, no, of course, definitely follow the rules of the company and the what HR tells you and the specific trainings that advise you on what to do if you see any such unethical activity. But for you personally, what advice would you give to someone who sees something like that, right? Like if you were in their shoes, for example, what would you do if you saw someone doing, solicitation or, some scams or using company property for their own benefit? What would you do if you saw that happening right now?
Yeah. So the organizational response usually is to report it to the organization, but it also depends on your relationship with that person. Like if you are comfortable speaking to them, you can actually first inquire about to confirm your suspicion actually, because it could also be a suspicion where you are not sure. So you can confirm with them and then maybe politely ask them to not do it if it is something that you see is unethical. And then usually, if it is something that you believe is not going to be good or harmful for the organization,
Right.
then you would report that to like, your supervisor.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I asked that question is because, as Muslims, right, in Islam, we're taught to do the right thing and be responsible, right? And, advocating for, accountability, if you will, right? But it's also human nature to kind of be scared of like what's going to happen to you, right? And so like, you know, as you hear in the news, like all these various tech companies doing like fishy, unethical practices,
Yeah,
and they're complicit in, you know war crimes, or like, they're providing surveillance technology, for example, or they're firing people because they have a certain belief, right, of different world events, for example. So in that sense also, right, when upholding accountability, what would you do in that sense also? Because some people can be very expressive and be bold and say, and they don't have any fear of what will happen to them because they know what's right and wrong. But I wanted to ask you that question. What would you do in that
yeah,
sense?
I think that's a good question. So in that sense, I would actually definitely speak up against like whatever I see is bad and unethically or injustice to like the other people or the things that we are building is going to be harmful to the other people. So I have been very fortunate to not be in a situation where I have to think about this, like the organization that I work for. But this is actually also one of the reasons that I have not decided to pursue working for an organization. Like when I was coming to US, I actually had this, I would say, goal or like aspiration to be working for a big tech company.
Yeah.
And when I came to US, I also have visited their like headquarters and saw the life around that. And not just that, I actually knew that there's going to be a lot of these like politics within the organization to be able to get to a better position or better position in your career. Like the accountability in terms of like because they have their hands in many different things, so it's not just one thing that they're focusing on. They are actually now like shaping the future for the next generations, like with the technology that they are introducing. So there's a lot of accountability in terms of like your social responsibility or your ethical responsibility. So I think that was also one of the deciding factors where I decided that I'm not going to be pursuing my aspiration of working for a company, big tech company, like I originally thought. Yeah,
That
I
makes
would
sense.
actually try and speak up against that. I know it's easier to say when not being in a situation like that, but I have seen like how we have recently saw the lady in the Microsoft, like
Iftihal. Yeah.
yeah, like that takes a lot of courage, and it was very inspiring to see her. I think I was also able to see a podcast after that where she mentioned how she was able to prepare for that and how like she actually left it to Allah basically, like when she was.
Yeah.
But that takes a lot of courage. I would also try and speak up against it, but yeah, as I said, not being in a position, it might be easier for me to say it right now. But if I
For
just
sure.
about it right now, I would definitely try and speak up against that.
Are there in your search of like before Tech Amana, right? When looking for different companies to work on or work with, are there companies that you in the industry right now or in the past that you would consider as ethical leaders or their practices are ethically sound and socially responsible? Are there any examples of companies that you could say right now that these are the companies that are good to work with? Um, and do any come to mind right now?
Not really. Like as I mentioned, like the bigger companies, they have been involved in so many different things. Like it's
It's
like
hard to tell.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's usually the like not so famous companies who are focusing on one thing, and you can actually easily tell what exactly they are working on and not working on anything else. Those are usually good, but like none of the popular or bigger companies are. I would say I would find anyone 100% uh, like ethically correct.
yeah. So I guess what's your advice for like young Muslim professionals, either entering the field you're in, or you know, tech companies or the tech industry in general? What's your advice for them if they're looking for work or wanting to get into a specific company that they like want to work at? What would you tell them to be on the lookout for?
Yeah, I would actually suggest the same thing. Like what I actually like, I was also like I had this aspiration to be working for a big tech company or a bigger company. But then when as I mentioned, I also visited the like headquarters of each company. Like most of these, I went to Seattle to see Microsoft and Amazon, and then Google, Meta, Facebook at that time, and Apple headquarters. It is something that, like, for your own career, should start working in a startup. I think for if you are able to,
Yeah.
because usually in a startup for your early career, you are able to get to do things or learn things more quickly than in a settled organization and a bigger organization. So that's one thing. Second thing is it is also easier for you to climb up the ladder. Like you have more opportunities, or you can actually, if you are doing very good, or if you are good at what you are doing, you will get more recognition, because in a bigger organization where a lot of good people are, like, people are equally as good as you, or if not better, it is difficult for you to make up your mark, and you will always have that constant pressure to outperform your peers, which is going to be a constant challenge for you. So that is another thing. The third thing is also, like, nowadays, as we were just discussing, there are no good companies that you can find ethically correct, like where you would not feel guilty, like I'm working for this company but they are doing this, or like they are responsible for like the war crimes that are happening in different parts of the world. Not just war crimes, but like many different things. Like if you really read into it, like
Sure. Yeah,
companies.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that is also another thing. So I will try, like, say that if you have the opportunity, try and find something which you are also excited about, like the mission of the company or what they're doing. But if not that, like, then try and see if you are able to get into a company which would provide you more opportunities to grow, and more opportunities to learn. Because, and more, like, another thing I have noticed in terms of technology, like I can talk about software companies, there are newer technologies coming out every day, and the companies which are well settled, they would already have their existing client base, and they would already have their applications running for many years. A lot of those applications are going to be outdated, very old, but they cannot afford to make a lot of changes very quickly to adopt new technology. But smaller companies or mid-sized small startups, they actually are able to, because they have this tendency to be able to make changes quickly and like adapt to newer things. So you also get that opportunity to stay current with the market, and be able to work on those things. So that is also another thing I have noticed. So my advice would be to try and look for something like that.
No, these are great advice, especially the first part where you're saying that if you have to or want to work at a more established tech company, um, not only do your research online, but if you're able to go visit their campus or their headquarters, right? Because reading about them is one thing, but actually immersing yourself
Yeah.
into their company culture, if you will, is another thing, right? So that gives you another essence and element to what it's like to work for that company as well. I also like the other your what you just said about working at a startup, right? Because in this industry, at least in the tech industry, the ability to make your mark is much easier because of the evolution of technology
Yeah.
that's just constant, and especially software, right? There's always new updates or new software or some new tool that's just being introduced every month or every week even,
Yeah.
right? So you're absolutely right. I think that if you have an interest in technology or the tech industry or the tech space, definitely look into startups or even starting your own business.
Yeah, I think that is also another thing. So if I have to look back 10 years, like back in my life, I would have started Techamana earlier. Like this is something that I wanted to do for a long time. Like ever since I got that opportunity to earn very good money myself when I was in Pakistan, I've been
Yeah,
talking about these similar platforms to other people for many years. Like anyone asks me for an advice, I would actually ask them to go check these out and apply and see if you are able to get in, you will be able to earn very good money. But starting my own business, I was thinking a lot about it. I think it also requires some courage and risk taking. Like we are still a new company and like not very successful, I would say right now, but we are working towards that. But if I had to go back in time, I would actually have started a business like this or something similar very early in my life.
for sure, for sure. And I think anyone who starts their own business or is a founder of some movement of any kind, I think they have the necessary courage, if you will, or it requires some risk,
Yeah,
uh, ability to take some risk because that like it may or may not succeed. It may, it will definitely not go in the way that you envisioned the first time, right?
yeah,
So it never starts off perfect, and then that's kind of how you learn, and that's the the growth that you experience in the path of entrepreneurship, if you will. So no, this is great. I ask every guest speaker if they're open to mentorship or anyone wants to ask you questions. How can the listeners connect with you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
yeah. I would love to answer any questions if anyone has any, like anything, any advice that I can give. So they can reach out to me through LinkedIn. I think you are going to be mentioning my LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me. And you can also reach out to me on email. Email, usually I would prefer LinkedIn versus email, but you can reach out to me on umair@techamana.com. And yeah, that's my first name at techamana.com.
Okay, sounds good. And as far as Techamana, how can the people support you and what you're doing in Techamana? What's the best way to support you in that sense?
Yeah. So if you know of someone who's looking to get an opportunity, you can ask them to go and apply at Techabana as a talent, like as a freelancer. So we are currently getting applications from like all software related fields, software development, and then design like UI, UX design or product design, and then product management and product management. So any of those people can apply. And the other part of it is if you know of someone who's looking to hire like top talent from all over the world. For our platform, I think the main value that we are providing is not just people, like it's not a cheaper alternate to like something else. It's basically providing you the top talent. So we have a process of only selecting the top 5% of the candidates based on the different criteria that we have on the platform. Not everyone who creates a profile gets in. Only it's approximate close to only 5% of the people are able to pass the assessment and get into the platform. So you'll be able to find a good quality talent. So if you know of someone hiring or if you're hiring, you can also come to the platform and submit the hiring form or your interest in hiring to the platform, and our team will be in contact with you.
Okay, wonderful. And before we wrap up, Umair, is there any final thought or anything you'd like to share with our listeners of this interview?
No, I think like all the questions that you have asked, there were already a lot of things that I would have said otherwise. So, like how we have recently just discussed about how to decide which company to go for. I think that would have been one of my advices. Like, what are some of the things that you should be looking at when deciding, like, when or where to work for?
Got it. All right, wonderful. Well, Omer, thank you so much for sharing your journey and being with us today. Your professional journey is very unique, and your insights is definitely going to resonate with our listeners. And I know that many of them will be inspired by the path that you take and the advice that you've given. So with that, jazakallah khair, and to our listeners, we'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for listening to the Tread a Path podcast. You can find all the resources our guests mentioned in the Tread a Path archive in our website, coffeeproductions.com, along with the links to connect with our guest speakers. If today's conversation inspired you or helped you in your own professional journey, we'd love to hear from you. So please leave us a review, share the episode with someone who might benefit, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. May your treaded path be blessed and full of wisdom. Assalamu alaikum.